All right, wide receivers. Let's move on. Chris Godwin. We know we like this guy. The Bucs suck, but you got to kind of like Chris Godwin here going against Baltimore. Wide receiver 13 for you. Experts have him at 17. Just with all these injuries and stuff going on with their receiving core, Godwin is Mr. Reliable as usual, right?
Yeah, he's been so reliable the last few weeks in terms of targets, target share. We finally saw after a couple weeks them easing him in to the lineup to about a 50% snap share. Back-to-back weeks now with right around 80 to 90% of the snaps depending on the week. 12 and 13 targets across his last 2 games. Just hasn't got it done as a touchdown scorer, but as we know, touchdowns can be fickle, and I think this is the week against a team giving up the second most points to wide receivers with all the injuries, as you just mentioned, around him. I think Godwin really comes out and maybe has a 2-score day. Today, he's been right on the verge of breaking out. He's the type of guy I would be hammering a buy low on right now before Thursday. I think this is his coming out party on Thursday Night Football. I love Godwin. I would like DraftKings captain stuff. That's who I'd be putting in there. I think he's going to have a monster day on Thursday Night Football.
You like Brandon Aiyuk a lot. I also like Aiyuk this week going against the Rams. Wide receiver 22 for you, all the way down at 29 for the experts. I like him too. What do you make of Deebo this year? I know this is not the guy on your list, but doesn't he just seem like – I'm not even blaming Deebo. It just seems like he's like burning a hole in people's pockets kind of.
Yeah, Deebo's been, okay. He's had 12 or more fantasy points in all but 2 weeks, so he's been, decent. The thing is the ceiling's been a whole lot lower, where we were getting, 30 to 40-point blow-ups last year. That just hasn't been there because the rushing workload hasn't been there, and I don't think it is going to get there.
No, then they got McCaffrey now. Right.
Yeah, Deebo, he's the type of guy, opposite-wise, I'd consider selling him on the name value alone. Has he been good? Yeah, he's been good.
I mean, he's a phenomenal talent.
He's insane.
I'm not hating
He's one of the best receivers in the league, just as a unique talent playmaker. Unbelievable. But as a fantasy product, he's been a mediocre wide receiver too, that we continue to rank and value as a wide receiver 1. You can trade him as an elite wide receiver 1 right now. I think with McCaffrey in tow, we saw it last week. 7 targets, 5 catches, 42 yards, just 1 carry. He's only had 2 or fewer rushes in 4 straight games now. And without that type of volume, that was the big concern. That's why I called him a round 2 fade in my draft guide this year. It's been even worse than I expected, though, and it's, I think, only going downhill now with Christian McCaffrey there. So a nice top 25 receiver, sure. Being valued as a top 8 guy every single week, not so much. So, yeah, a little bit lower on Deebo, especially because we've now seen Brandon Aiyuk out-target him in 2 straight weeks. 11 and 11 targets back-to-back weeks, 80-plus yards in back-to-back weeks for Aiyuk. 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. No scores last week, but 25 and 12 points in half PPR leagues. A wide receiver 3, wide receiver 24 in back-to-back weeks. The big thing has been Jimmy Garoppolo having to throw more. That's why Jimmy Garoppolo was my quarterback hire of the week. I think against the Rams, another matchup where they're probably going to have to take to the air more often than they might like to. The Rams are the number 1 team against running backs so far this year, bottom 5 team against wide receivers. So just in terms of matchup-wise, scheme-wise, I think we see the 49ers yet again take to the air early and often with Jimmy Garoppolo, Brandon Aiyuk. We've seen George Kittle kind of have a resurgence, all at the expense of Deebo Samuel that you keep mentioning. But I think another big top 20 potential week for Brandon Aiyuk's on the cards this week.
Yeah, sorry to derail that talking about Deebo, but
no, it's true. It's a good point, though. It's a good talking point. He just has not been the Deebo that we expected as a second-round pick. He's shown all the reasons why we wanted to fade him, honestly, even more so than what we'd expect. Yeah, I'm looking at him I have him wide receiver 11 right now, and I'm one spot.
Oh, that seems high to me. I love Deebo. I really do. I have to keep qualifying with that because I do love the guy. This is somebody that people spent, $50 in their auctions on.
I want to bump him below, honestly, Olave, who I have at wide receiver 16. I think I'm going to look at this and adjust my rankings. And, of course, that's going to be the week Deebo has 2 touchdowns, sees 10 carries out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he'll whip it out and smack us with it.
Tell me where you draw the line, truth. Jalen Waddle against Detroit. Deebo or Jalen Waddle?
Oh, gosh. Probably Waddle, which I don't like saying that, but because I don't really like Waddle and I love Deebo, but yeah.
Hopkins at Minnesota.
Oh, geez. That's close. I might lean Hopkins.
Godwin, who we just talked about, or Deebo?
I would say Godwin.
T. Higgins.
God, probably Higgins.
These are all the guys. It's like, which one do I bump him? Like, where do I?
Every time I'm like, I feel like I should apologize every time I say this, but I'm just being honest. Yeah, I'd probably take those guys over Deebo.
That's what I'm saying. Like, as a fantasy product, Deebo as a real life receiver, I'd probably put above every single guy we just talked about.
Yeah, maybe not Hopkins.
Maybe not Hopkins at this stage of his career. I don't know.
Maybe
fantasy wise, without these carries and with Brandon Aiyuk really emerging as he is and Kittle continuing to ascend. It's Deebo again, a high-end wide receiver too, is how he probably should be viewed on his role. Talent can definitely overcome that and have some huge spike weeks for sure. But yeah, it's so tough. Like you say, I want to apologize for like slandering Deebo because as a player, there's very few people that I like. It's kind of like Kittle. Like when I slander Kittle because he does not seeing a ton of like I love Kittle. I think he's the best tight end in the league. Yet his role is not all that amazing. It's just that classic tug of war between the talent, between the role and the usage. It's a tricky role of fantasy owners, I guess, All
right, let's talk wide receivers. Drake London. We got derailed there. Sorry, guys. I'm like, we need to hurry, and then I slowed us down completely. Drake London.
The beauty of not having a game that we're up against. I know we want to get out of here at 8:15, but it gives us a little more freedom to just kind of breathe.
We'll fly a little bit. Drake London against Carolina. You like him at wide receiver 36, 4 spots above the experts. Sure, why not?
I don't know. He's not a guy I'm in here loving by any means. 3, 6, 6, and 1 fantasy points. We know how reluctant Arthur Smith has been to throw the ball. I mean, they were down by over 2 scores nearly all game, and they ended up throwing the ball 14 times. A 45% pass rate even though they were down by 14 points. The league average when you're down by more than 7 is 72% pass rate. So we've never seen an offense this weird and inept when they're down. So that does make me a little bit nervous for London. All that is to say, I think this is the week they come out and like throw it at an actual NFL average clip. If you get that, which is what they were doing at the beginning of the year, we saw 10, 21, and 13 points for London to start the season. It's been all downhill since. I kind of think this is his rebound against a nice matchup against Carolina. I mean, Mike Evans, as you said, should have had a 150-yard touchdown day. Godwin had himself a decent enough day. This is a good spot for London to rebound. So I just have him a little bit higher than like he's kind of a bench and the experts. He's probably – I don't want to necessarily play Drake London, but at wide receiver 36, above, say, Curtis Samuel, above, Michael Gallup, guys that are ranked ahead of him right now, I just don't think are worth it. So little slight leaning to London this week compared to some of the names below him.
Kevin, real quick, throwing us $5 stats. Got a gross one because of Mike Will and DK. Start 2. Wandale, Darrell Henderson, London, Zay Jones, Melvin Gordon. Wow, that is gross. He said it. He admitted it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Wolf? You like 2 of those guys?
You got to start 2 of them. I'm used to like –
you got to start 2 of them.
I'm always like with Kevin's questions, like, fuck, I have to actually bench one of these guys. This blows.
No,
I don't know what team this is, Kevin. Maybe like you mentioned the injuries and DK. Like, yeah, put you in a tough spot. Of this list, assuming Henderson returns to practice, which, as you mentioned, truth.
By the way, Millie just said, FYI, Henderson was updated from no-show to illness.
Okay.
Thank you, Millie. Millie's hooking us up with the inside dirt.
I see a comment from my boy Angel up there that I cannot wait to address. Thank you, Angel. My butthurt advice about the Giants.
Am I your
Giants?
Am I your boy that's a Giants hater?
No, I'm the boy that's a Giants hater. I consistently am low on Daniel Jones. I'll say this: I love Wandale. I'm going Wandale here. So Angel, I do like some Giants out there, including Wandale. Saw 8 targets, 5 catches in the first half. Disappeared a little bit later in that second half. Didn't see much of him, but man, did he look electric. 27.5% target rate on his routes right now. That's top 10 in the league for guys that have ran 50 or more routes. So I'm in on Wandale. Big fan of him, starting him above these other guys. And then I think I go Henderson. If he's in the illness issue, so who knows how serious that illness is, but knowing he's back, at least it was just an illness situation, he's probably going to see 70% of the snaps. Decent bet to find the end zone. In his 3 starts, he's got 11, 12, and 11 points. Like, is he lighting the world on fire? No. But is that a fantasy starter? Yeah, it is. So I'm going to go Henderson. I'm going to go Wandale, just very slightly over Drake London.
Fine.
What about you? Who are your 2 guys?
That's who I would take too. I mean, I guess I would consider London, but I mean, yeah, that's probably who I would take too. And it's I feel bad saying like they're awful picks because Kevin led with saying it was gross. It's not like he doesn't know. But yeah, that's
and they're not that, like, honestly, I've got some starters this week. Like, if you have a lot of Chiefs and Chargers, you're in some trouble here. I'm starting Wandale, and I'm like, that's all I've got. My running back situation is pretty gross too. So I get it, Kevin. I have Eckler out. I have, Mike Williams out too. So I'm scrapping too. Wandale and Henderson's not the worst at all. I know I gave a little noise, but like, there's worse than that. I'm just used to like being like, fuck, I have to bench one of these guys for you. So, a little bit different Kevin Rice question this week, it seems.
All right, wide receivers lower. Diontae Johnson at Philly, wide receiver 27. Experts like him at 23. What you thinking?
A great secondary and a guy that just has not been great at all. 3, 9, 6, and 7 fantasy points in his last 4. It's been the George Pickens show ever since Kenny Pickett took over. The most targets on the team, the most yards, the most fantasy points since Kenny Pickett took over the situation. We're still getting like volume, 13, 7, and 10 targets in his last 3 games for Diontae. It's just not turning into anything very viable. So against one of the best secondaries in the league, do I think he's going to suddenly like reemerge and be this smash top 30 receiver? No, I don't. So I'm just a bit lower on him than like the absolute lock must play. He's getting ranked as a top 22 receiver right now. I don't think he should warrant that type. Like, give me Aiyuk, give me Terry McLaurin, who he's ranked ahead of. Give me like Devonta Smith, who's ranked right around him. I even go DJ Moore at this point, and you know how bad I am on DJ Moore most of the weeks. PJ Walker actually likes DJ Moore, though. So a lot of guys I would just trust a little bit more than Diontae Johnson.
Christian Kirk against Denver in London. Wide receiver 26 for you. Again, 4 spots below the experts.
Bottom 2 matchup for wide receivers. Great to see him get 10 targets, 7 catches, 96 yards. Like, back on track. Wide receiver 16 last week. I think Denver's a tough matchup, though. I just think that game is going to be hideous. I think we're going to get like a 6-3 London, just ew, type of 9:30 wake up. So I don't like the spot for Christian Kirk. 2 weeks before last week was 5 and 3 targets. I could see another like 5 target, 4 catch, 20-yard day. And if he doesn't get bailed out by a touchdown, we could be in some trouble.
Romeo Doubs, this is really gross. Wide receiver 44, 7 below the experts. I think you're high on him.
I might be, honestly, a little bit too high here. The only case that could be made for him is maybe Lazard sits and now he's like the number 1 guy. But Rodgers this week, like, we need young guys to step up. There's too many that I don't trust on. Like, very directly, pretty much just calling out Romeo Doubs for not making plays. He was 0 for 4 last week, one of the lowest graded receiver performances we've seen this year. Yeah, we all have bad days at the office. He still was in there for the most routes, the most, top 3 targets last week. But I think this is like, I think he's just going to continue to get moved down. The more and more we see Aaron Rodgers less and less pleased by this guy, I think he's going to kind of disappear into the mystic here, fade into the mystic. 4, 4, and 0 points his last 3 weeks too. It's not like he's been doing much for you to give you confidence. And now that Rodgers is publicly calling him out, and it's like the bottom 3 matchups for wide receivers against Buffalo. Let's not consider any Packers. No Rodgers, no Lazard, no Doubs. Like, let's cross that team out this week. No, thank you. Only Aaron Jones.
Cross them out for the year. Hail Marys, the Wolves' boy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, 22% owned. Also, Tyquan Thornton, who you've been kind of circling for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, Peoples-Jones just continues to get it done week in and week out with Brissett. 6 catches, 71 yards, 4 catches, 71 yards, 4 for 50. Like, are they lighting the world on fire? Oh, and then 571, no. 10, 7, 10, and 8. It's not amazing, but that is sustenance for fantasy. That's 4 straight weeks in the top 50 wide receivers. And when you're looking at a Hail Mary, and again, 3 of those 4 weeks were top 40. So, like, again, not a huge ceiling. But if one of those deep bombs goes for a touchdown, now we're talking about a top 20 wide receiver week. And similar to like that, when I like to have a Hail Mary running back play, I want to be a handcuff with some upside too. We get Watson coming back in just 3 to 4 weeks here, one of the best deep passers in the NFL. So Peoples-Jones is like, you can play him and still have a lot of upside, a lot of fancy meat on the bone for future weeks here. And then Tyquan Thornton, similarly, I think Kendrick Bourne's going to get moved this coming week. Even if not, he's clearly in the doghouse. And I just really like what I'm seeing this kid do every time he's out on the field. Yeah, last week, only 2 fantasy points, 1 catch, 19 yards, but 2 touchdowns the week before, moving all over the place. Just like underlying usage that I really am intrigued by. Big plays that I see him making. I think the kid's a real talent, huge speed. If the quarterback situation can kind of balance itself out, I think we're going to see a nice stretch run from Thornton starting this week against the Jets.
What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments. Check out some more videos. and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.